Everybody, hope you guys are doing well. Today I'll be reviewing the film Contagion. This movie came out in 2011 and is directed by Steven Soderbergh or Steven Soderbergh. So, if you don't know who Steven Soderbergh is, you might know his name from the films Oceans 11 through 13, and most recently his film came out called Logan Lucky. Logan Lucky stars Channing Tatum, Daniel Craig, and Kylo Ren, aka Adam Driver. So I decided to go back and see Contagion, another film that's directed by him, and this is one of his few films that is not a heist film. And I'm gonna get talking about this. And this film actually has a lot of different star talents. This has Matt Damon, Marion Cotillard, Laurence Fishburne, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Winslet. So there's definitely a lot of actors and actresses packed into one movie. So. And I'm starting to think that Steven Soderbergh is actually someone who likes to put in a lot of good talent into his films and has done a great job of doing that. This movie review is going to be uncut, again, because I don't have the gear to do editing right now, and also because this film is another one which I feel can be uncut, and I like doing uncut reviews every now and then. So this one's an uncut movie review. And this movie, again, as I said, came out in 2011, so it's around 6 years old now. And it's interesting because Steven Soderbergh, after making a few films, said he would never return to cinema, and here we are with Logan Lucky in theaters. So of course, in true Soderbergh fashion, he's back. So I'm gonna get started with the review. Did I like this movie? I'd say overall yes, I liked it, and I'm gonna tell you some of the things I liked about it first. First thing that I really liked about this movie is how well this movie is written, basically. The movie is written so that's really grounded in reality. Basically, the story follows this virus that's, spreading, pretty simple, killing people, and we kind of see this thing from different perspectives from different people. That's why we have so many actors and actresses in this film, because we see it from so many perspectives. Now, this film is well written overall, but there are some parts in the writing that I'll get to a little bit later when I talk about the negative aspects of this film that kind of discredit the writing a little bit. But overall, it's a well-written film, and one thing I liked is how well grounded in reality this film is. This movie could have just dramatized everything, made it all Hollywood-proof, and made it all sugar-coated so it just feels, more Hollywoodish or dramatic. But this film doesn't go down that route. It starts in a way that feels realistic, and it also has a very, it has a sense that you would get if this kind of event happened in real life. One thing I really like is kind of how they integrate different health agencies and kind of the politics, kind of interweave this like thread of politics through basically this doomsday scenario that you would expect to occur in a real life scenario. Now, a lot of doomsday films tend to try and put politics into their films, but it ends up looking unrealistic. But in this film, it has that sense of realism a little bit. So you hear names like Center for Disease Control and Prevention, WHO, which is the World Health Organization. So I like that they made some sort of attempt to keep the film grounded in reality. And I like also, again, I kind of like the different perspectives through which we see this film. I'll get to that a little bit later, though, because it does have a negative side to it. Another thing I really like about this film is its editing. Yes, the editing is really, really well done in this film. It's a really well edited film, and also kind of goes hand in hand with good writing a little bit, because basically, unlike other perhaps virus films you've seen, or maybe even zombie films you've seen, things take place in a very short span of time, like 24 hours, 72 hours, 1 week, 3 weeks. No. This film is more realistic, because if a virus really did hit us and it was really killing people, it was really lethal and contagious, as the one in Contagion is, it takes time to first spread, and then you see the ramifications of that, and that's basically over a span of one or a couple months, actually. And I like that the film recognized that fact that this kind of thing doesn't just happen in like 2 days or whatever, 2 weeks even. It takes months to get the virus spreaded, people die, the search for vaccinations began. I really liked the aspect where they were intelligent enough, and that's what I say, some of the script is really intelligently written, in that they recognize that, this kind of thing, it goes over a long period of time. And that, coming to the editing, is to put all this in a 2-hour movie, actually less than 2-hour movie, can be difficult. And what I like that they did with their editing is they created really intelligent montages paired with some really, really good music. And that made you not only more engrossed in the film, but it transferred information really fast. And you got to see things happening over time. It could have been a really cheap montage, but the way in which it was edited, the way in which it was also cinematographically filmed. There are a lot of times in this film where, very intelligently, and this kind of a clever, witty thing also, where we see people touch certain objects and then we just see that object, and the actor will leave the frame and we just see the object, where now that the disease has gone on into whatever they touched or whatever. So that wise, it was, cinematographically wise, I'd say it was also a really excellent film where the directors and everyone was working together to create these really good montage sequences. So all those things came together for those montage sequences. Dialogue in this film, also pretty good. Not bad dialogue. In fact, because I'm someone who's really picky about dialogue, especially in this kind of scenario where we're having, meetings going on. There's like a lot of times in this film where you basically have to give the audience to sit down and just throw them information in front of a whiteboard. And there's ways that you can make that uninteresting, but whoever wrote the dialogue and the screenwriters understood, how to make even the most, information, just nothing but information scenes more engaging. And I really like that aspect. It kind of reminded me of Aaron Sorkin's work a little bit, because he also has this ability to take what can be just expository information and turn it into something incredibly interesting to watch. So I like that about this film as well. Now, those are all things I like. Also, the performances. Matt Damon is in this movie, by the way, and so is Marion Cotillard. Marion Cotillard, whom I'm a big fan of. There are also some other actors and actresses. Jude Law is also in this film. So the people who I liked the performances of are Matt Damon, definitely. Kate Winslet, also excellent job, as well as Jude Law. Jude Law gave a knockout performance in this film, and to some degree, I will say also Matt Damon did as well. So that was really, there were good performances throughout the film. Even within minor characters, we got some really great performances out of them. Also, in terms of screenplay, kind of going back and kind of jumping around here, it's good that this movie review is uncut. I really like the sense of paranoia that kicks in once that disease starts to spread and people, start hearing about the disease. I like that sense of paranoia. It kind of reminded me of when swine flu happened. Kind of similar sense of just fear and paranoia. And I like that the film very intelligently understood that more than the disease, the thing that's gonna freak people out is fear or paranoia. And it really displayed that really well. And not in a way that feels dramatized, because there could have been really, really cheesy dialogues in this film where people are like, oh, I don't trust you, but in a subdued and subtle kind of way, the dialogue was well written enough to, not only show that sense of paranoia, but also make it, subtle and not just like, oh, I'm afraid of you because you might have the disease. It was really well interweaved into the dialogue itself, so I like that aspect. Now, coming to the negative aspects of this film, which I do have some qualms with this film, actually. It's not a perfect film. I might even say it's not a great film. It's between somewhere, I'd say, above average and good, and it's because of these few reasons. One of the reasons I think I liked, the montages and stuff in this film is how well compacted the film felt. That said, the film does have some loose ends, and this is partly due to some aspects of poor writing and some poor decisions in terms of, screenwriting and direction. There are a lot of characters in this film, particularly Marion Cotillard's character, that really, really weren't necessary. I know that the film is trying to show different perspectives that, go into, fixing a disease or whatever, making the vaccine and all this kind of stuff that comes together. The film's some characters just aren't well fleshed out enough for us to care about them, and their unique perspective isn't necessarily very engaging or significant, in my opinion. As I said, Marion Cotillard's character in particular feels just not very fleshed out, first of all, and not very necessary in the film. So that kind of ended up creating these loose ends, and the film ended up feeling overlong, even though it was at a brisk 1 hour and 46 minutes. What I would have liked to see from this film is a little bit of removal of characters. What happened is that in trying to show all these perspectives, the film started to feel very choppy, and the movie kept going back and forth between these 7 or 8 great actors and actresses, which is great that they're giving good performances, but their stories just did not feel significant. And as an audience member, it was really difficult to concentrate on what stories are most important to this entire ordeal. You know, a lot of people will say, you know, it's just the different perspectives they're trying to bring in, and they're trying to add a sense of realism. But I don't think that's a very fair argument, because if that were true, then we would be focusing on the story of every single extra in the background. That's just my opinion. So I feel like if they had removed some of these character storylines, we would have gotten a little bit more of a compacted story that felt more significant. And with that compacted story, we could have gotten a little bit more character development. Now, a lot of people will be like, you know, they don't need character development, these are just regular people doing their jobs. But I felt that there needed to be a little bit more connection to the actors. You know, and because even though this film could easily rely on just raw emotions, which I think you could, you know, do in this sort of film, is just not, if you don't want to have severe character development, you know, just like constantly people talking about the character or whatever, they weren't even able to integrate raw emotions properly into this film, because we kept going back and forth from different actors, and then when you were like expected to feel for these raw emotions, it just didn't happen because there were so many actors and actresses you were supposed to care about. So the film felt a little bit choppy in that sense. I mean, really, that is my biggest qualm about this film, is how choppy it feels. Despite having everything going for it, it did feel choppy for me, and it didn't let me get connected even remotely to any of the characters. So that is one of my biggest problems with this film. I wish Steven Soderbergh had, you know, cut out some of the characters, as I said, and then got in a way more focused and focused movie. And when the movie becomes focused itself, it can also become more thrilling or engaging. And because there were times when I didn't care about the characters, this movie did get a little bit boring, which it really shouldn't have, because it has a very high stakes premise. So, you know, I wish I was more engrossed into the film, even though I was not. You know, even though you're trying to inject a sense of realism in films, which I think is awesome, you know, especially in this kind of thing where it's a disease, virus, that's the kind of thing that you want to show it in a realistic way. You don't want to sugarcoat this. You don't want to Hollywoodize this. That's a new word. You don't want to make this, you know, Hollywood proof. But that said, you want to also be able to make a movie that's engaging and interesting for the audience to watch. And I felt like this film missed the mark on that. So it did get a bit boring at times. Overall, though, Contagion is a very intelligent thriller. I think the directors and screenwriters made some very good decisions in terms of how to make this movie. Almost all of the things that were happening in this film were really well done. Editing was good, cinematography was good, performances were great, and only if the movie was just a little bit more focused on a few characters. I would have had it focused on, I think, Laurence Fishburne's character and Matt Damon's characters, because those felt the most important, and maybe even Jude Law's character, because he does bring a very unique perspective that you don't really see in these kind of films. So those are probably the characters that I would have focused most on, but the movie does get hung up on the other minor characters. That said, the minor characters give great performances through their actors, but as I said, you know, that didn't feel necessary to the film. Overall, I think Contagion is a fun, scary film, because it's kind of like a horror movie when you're watching it, in that it's a real-life horror movie. And it feels really realistic, which makes it even more scary, all the more scary. So overall, I'm going to give Contagion a B+ for being an overall effective, intelligent, kind of scary thriller. I could have given this movie an A-, only if it had felt a little bit more focused. But overall, I think you guys should check it out. Again, this movie came out in 2011. And be sure to check out Steven Soderbergh's newest film, Logan Lucky, starring Channing Tatum, Daniel Craig, and good old Adam Driver. It also has Sebastian Stan, I believe, so be sure to check out Steven Soderbergh's other works and his canon, as well as Logan Lucky, as well as Contagion. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this review. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things, and hit the post notification bell next to the subscribe button so you're up to date every time I release a new video. And thank you for watching, guys.